of them, even in their classrooms in Germany, they didn't want to be ever separated. They had to sit next to each other. Renata was a couple of years older. She was responsible for bringing Hans to the United States. They had a traumatic childhood. They were tormented by the Nazis during the war when they were kids. And then when the Soviets came, they kicked all the German speakers out of this part of Silesia in Germany, and it became part of Poland. So they were refugees. They had to leave. This was their ancestral home, painted watercolor by Hans Frank when he was 15 years old. So they went to Bielefeld, and Hans studied at the Academy of Bielefeld. And so these were pictures from Germany that he brought with him to the United States. Hi Jan, this is my art curated Jan. So this is Berlin. This is Berlin in 1961, and this is his impression of the building of the Berlin Wall. When he studied at Bielefeld, you could see he was looking at Bauhaus called clay, so it's kind of early modernist pictures. This show was dedicated to Hans and his sister Renata, who helped us put the show together, who was ill and unfortunately passed away about 10 days before our opening. Yeah, so it was an emotional roller coaster for us, right, Jan?
No, it was terrible. And she tried to hold on, she really did.
So that's why we've dedicated this in memoriam Hans and Renata Frank, Cosmic Art, because it was a collaboration, a lifetime collaboration in some way. When Hans came to the United States, he had already felt he was an accomplished artist because of having had some shows in Bielefeld. But there was a language issue when he came to the United States. He felt like a hostile audience for his art. He showed only twice. Once at the IBM gallery in Poughkeepsie, and he brought some of the pictures from Germany that he painted. He brought a big version of this mermaid on the Rhine. This is a merman on the Rhine. When he brought this big picture and he put it right as he entered the gallery, and when he went to the opening, the directors had put cloth across the mermaid's breasts. And Renata said he nearly passed out. He just couldn't handle it. He spun on his heels and walked out, never went back to the gallery. Renata had to deinstall the show and deal with all the museum gallery people. So that was his first experience. After a few years, he thought, okay, I will try again. He was in a solo show in a small gallery in Kingston, where he hung the show, took in all what he thought were his best works, put them in the front of the gallery, arranged them the way he wanted. The night of the opening, he went back and the director had to change all the works, put his favorite works in storage, and had a completely different show. So that was the end. He just trusted the art world after that and wouldn't talk to dealers or show his work. He became very reclusive as an artist, but remained dedicated to his work. So he has an enormous volume of work in the house, and no one ever saw it until Jan, who was my doubles tennis partner, took me to Renata. She said, I have a friend whose brother was a dedicated artist but never showed his work. Would you, as an art professional, which I sort of am, would you like to come and look at this work and see, what it has any value or what it's like? I walked into this place, floor to ceiling paintings. Hans and his sister had designed their house. He painted all the walls these bright colors. So you can imagine these paintings against bright orange, hot pink, bright blue walls. It was just pulsating. And I felt like I walked into King Tut's tomb. It was just breathtaking. So this show has been 4 years in the making because he had no track record of connections to the art world in any way. So we had to sort of establish that. Luckily, Hudson Hall decided to take it on. So we get to do this survey of Hans's work. It's a retrospective, starting with these works from Germany, This, he was obsessed with animals a lot. This was Renata, his sister's favorite painting. It was by her bed when she died. She always loved this one. It's called Jungle Fantasy. Every one of his works, even all the animals, have to have an orb in them. The eye, some sort of orb formation, geometric or organic. So he carried that with him through his whole career. This is the cosmic course he brought from Germany. These are all some photos in a 1953 sketchbook that Hans kept, that we included in the show. There are many other things in the house, but Renata helped us select the photos and the sketchbook and all these details for the show. And this was a portrait that Hans did of his sister in 1963. And this is a photo I took of Renata in 2022. So this is Hans, the span of Renata's time. And she just was so dedicated to preserving her brother's work, even though no one had ever seen it. And so she saved up enough money to go and get Hans, to convince him to come with her back to the United States. So here he was transitioning from his works from Germany to abstraction. This is a piece he did in Bielefeld, but you could see his interest was really in this extraterrestrial object that's out the window. This is like the same period and the same kind of form. So he kept that image all throughout his career. And when he came to the United States, he experimented with 3 different types of works. This sort of modernist still life painting, this iconography, these specific kind of icons and equations and stuff. We're still trying to figure out what some of these symbols mean. And then the other motif he worked with a lot is this sort of expressionist landscape. And that's what he's stuck with. He did work for a time in the aerodrome in Rhinebeck. He sort of volunteered to do some handyman kind of stuff. And that's when he started looking at and thinking about aerial views of things. This is actually one of the biplanes in the Rhinebeck aerodrome. Have you seen that?
Over, yeah.
And that's a plane, and this is sort of a aerial views that he imagined he would be seeing from the plane, different landscapes. And this form, these organic forms and earth forms like a farm or something like that you would see. And then these led to this sort of obsession with the cosmos. These circular forms, spiral forms. And he was always experimenting with a lot of materials. He did a lot of these kind of mosaic, terracotta mosaic pieces. This is Pisces. This is a very important work for him. There's a photo of him in the vitrine with this. But then he discovered the cosmos as his theme. So the rest of his life, through the 80s, he died in 1997 at age 62. He did these cosmic, obsessively painted these cosmic watercolors, paintings, gradually getting more and more intense in textures, color, experimenting with different forms. He always had this spiritual sense about the cosmos. His sister, she got these telescopes that he would spend at night looking through these, he has several telescopes. We added this bit of bling to, we call it infinite sky, just to, keep people from playing with the telescope. But to sort of add to, his feeling about what it was, infinity, that he was studying and searching with the spiritual quest. If you look carefully at some of the watercolors, they will say different psalm numbers or bits of chapters from the Bible, which you can look up. Not all of them have that, but some of them do. So a lot of people, say he was looking at Kandinsky a lot. He had a lot of modernist references, and he had in his library a lot of books about modern and contemporary art. But he was never an abstract painter in the sense that the image was always the cosmic image that he would see in the telescope.
I think there's a hunger to see more. I mean, some of the people who've come in and asked if there's more work that they might be able to see. I think both with an interest in the work, but also potential to purchase more work. And I don't know if there are plans to exhibit it at another space or venue, or if it's possible to do a tour of where
Yes.
the bulk of the work is stored.
Yes, that was one of her requests, to have what art we could to hang in the main house to be open as a gallery so people could come and it would be for sale.
Well, we'd be happy to, help whenever you're ready to do that.
Okay,
I'll get the
wonderful.
word out on that because there's been an exceptional amount of interest and people are just kind of blown away when they come
I
in.
know,
And, there's obviously people who are somewhat to whatever degree familiar, but then it's just people coming in randomly off the street to see an art exhibition, and it's been like really heartwarming.
I think this particular painting, Red Orbit, is one of the finest of this particular period, just because of its energy. In a certain light, it really has a three-dimensional quality to it with the highlights of the orbs. And he became more and more interested in those three-dimensional aspects of surface and such, as you can see, adding actual three-dimensional elements to it. And these cosmic scenes would get more and more complex. A lot of people see faces in this particular one. This we put on cinder block paving stones just to emphasize the sculptural, the relief quality of the painting. And this was probably based on that famous 1968 work, a photo that was taken, Gemini 8 or something like that, one of the early space programs, where this is the moon, shot from the moon, and the Earth in the background. And if you look closely, he has Job 26:7. So I looked that up, and it's about how God created the universe out of nothing, or words to that effect, how the universe exists from nothingness to this. So there's many more watercolors. We chose just some of these are in the catalog. These are his last works that we have to show. As he got ill, he had an undiagnosed illness. Now some people think it was Lyme, maybe some form of Lyme disease, they don't know. But anyway, he passed away at 62. He couldn't do the textural pieces or stretched burlap that he was used to working with. But he chose these mylar. He worked on mylar at the very end. So those two pieces in the windows, the small works in the window. And these two are the last works that he did. He also was an accomplished pianist and could play the classics very well. And since I've been working on the show, I've been thinking about music's relationship with this work. So this is for hum.